Hey, what's up, everybody? It is Jordan here from Wednesday Night Warhammer. This is the first episode of a new series that I'll be doing on four very specific detachments that Tyranids have. I'm just going to be diving into five additional tips and maybe some things that people haven't discovered yet, maybe some interactions within these four detachments that people haven't seen before that will help your gameplay in each of these detachments. These videos are going to be a little bit shorter, a little bit more concise and to the point. And this week's one is on invasion. Our first tip that I would like to give you is a kind of a core of what I think a standard invasion fleet, competitive Tyranid list is going to look like. And if you're getting into invasion fleet, or maybe you're wanting to rework how you play invasion fleet, or you just want to get a little bit better at invasion fleet, I really think that right now in our meta, your list should probably start with these units. Now, it doesn't absolutely have to start with these units, but I think if you start off of this basis and then kind of go from there, it could be a good idea for your game. So let's dive into it really quickly. We have the characters, the Hive Tyrant with Adaptive Biology. I am running the Bone Sword Lash Whip as well as the Scything Talons just for extra punch. I've been really liking that loadout. Neuro Tyrant, if you have room later on for an enhancement on it, sure, but I think the Neuro Tyrant is kind of just fine without anything. 2 squads of Gargoyles. I really think that Gargoyles are very, very strong, and especially in Invasion Fleet with the ability to regrow them, they can really help your primary game as well as secondary game, and kind of knocking your opponent off primary as well. Then a Biovore, you will be seeing this unit in every single core of each detachment that we cover within this series. You just need to run a Biovore. I'm sorry to say that, but you do. Then next up, 2 Exocrines, probably one of our most efficient shooting units that we have. They can punch up into a lot of things, and they can also deal with some heavy elite infantry. So they're a good versatile unit to have. Then 2 Lictors. In Warhammer 40k, especially on the more competitive end, I really think that units that have infiltrate in their keywords and have that ability are really, really powerful for early game scoring, as well as beginning kind of trade wars that are going to allow for you to be in the positive end of any trade. Because Lictor's only 60 points. Sometimes an opponent has to commit way more into the Lictor in order to kill it. Then rounding up this core list is going to be 2 Tyrannofexes. I'm running them both with Rupture Cannons right now, just to kind of shore up our weakness on heavy armor and heavy tanks. Tyrannofex with the Rupture Cannon, in my opinion, is definitely the best anti-tank weapon. This core list will leave you around 625 points remaining for you to kind of move your list wherever you want from that point. I understand that might seem like a small amount of points, but when you really look into it, this list already has a lot of things that any list will be needing. It's got scoring units, it's got a heavy support unit with the Hive Tyrant, it's got damaging units with Exocrine and Tyrannofexes, and the Biovore, Gargoyles, and Lictors already help you score a whole lot of points in the game. Our second tip is going to be on the Endless Swarm stratagem and how you can use it in kind of a cheeky way to really, really help your game. So I don't know if you know this or not, but the Endless Swarm stratagem, the one that regenerates Gargoyles or Hormagaunts or Termagants, can actually dodge any battle shock checks as long as you're running them in minimum 10-man units. This doesn't work on the 20-man units, but it does work every single time on the 10-man unit. So let's break it down. Battle shock step is at the end of the command phase. This stratagem, the win is during your command phase. Believe it or not, any abilities, any stratagems that you use, etc., in your command phase will always happen before the battle shock step. Battle shock is supposed to be the very last thing that is done in the command phase. That's how you're supposed to do it if you're really, really playing by the rules. So if you use this stratagem, even if you have 1 model left in the unit, it's going to return D3 plus 3 models. So at the bare minimum, it's going to return 4 models. So it'll bring that 1 model in the unit up to 5 models. And then that unit will no longer be under half starting strength. Then you won't need to take a battle shock check. You can also do this to string out your Gargoyles to take back objectives, to reclaim primary. It's really, really, really helpful. So just one CP, you can do insane bravery and get models back in the same time with your gargoyles. Try it out. Tip number 3 is staging your invasion. I do this when I'm writing out lists is I kind of plan my list out in waves. I kind of try and visualize how my list is going to function through the first 3 turns of the game so that I have a game plan for when I'm deploying, when I'm actually doing my movement, and when I'm trying to achieve those secondaries. This is going to allow you to score pretty much any secondary in the deck as long as you're making sure you're keeping track of the secondaries that probably matter for you. Some movement ones like behind enemy lines, engage all fronts, containment, cleanse, etc. If you're keeping in mind with that when you are writing a list, how your list is going to move and score those points, it can greatly benefit your game in Warhammer. So what I like to do is like my swarm units, like my gargoyles and my lictors or my lone ops are going to go ahead and take the primary score first. They're going to step onto objectives. They're going to try and force my opponent to come out and try and take them off the objective, or then you just get primary if they don't. It's a win-win situation. Then directly behind those units, I'm going to stage my counterpunch units, maybe like my Maleceptor, my Gene Stealers, whatever you decide to add to that invasion core that we talked about earlier on. Those units are going to activate back into whatever your opponent put on the objective to get rid of your gargoyles or to get rid of your lictors. Doing something like this, it really kind of forces your opponent to commit before you do, meaning they have to put meaningful units, hopefully, on the point or in the middle of the table in a way where you can activate into them with your gun line, with Maleceptors, X-Wings, Tyrannofexes, without really trading those very important pieces too early. Or if they're not doing that and they're scared of your gun line, then it's going to create what's called a primary trap, which means your lictor's just going to sit on this objective and just farm primary throughout the game. And that's a win as well. So you get to keep your lictor and you get to keep your primary points. While those staged units are doing this, your lictors and your gargoyles, make sure that you have an aggressive unit directly behind them to immediately counterpunch. So this is going to allow for you to still make a profit off of whatever went out to kill those lictors, and it might honestly dissuade your opponent from even going out there in the first place. Invasion Fleet is very good at being well-rounded. It has a lot of tools in order to adapt into different metas as well as into different lists. But you got to plan accordingly in order to gain the benefits of all the tools that Invasion Fleet has. Probably our best stratagem in this detachment is kind of a boring one, but it's very, very good, especially with some of our units. It's Rapid Regeneration. It's the stratagem that gives us a 5-up feel no pain as long as that unit is in Synapse. The thing about it is you have to make sure that you are planning ahead on when you are activating it and what unit you will be activating it on in order to get, of course, the most out of it. So thinking about big, tough units like Tyrannofexes, like Maleceptors, those are really, really good targets to use on your Rapid Regeneration stratagem. In addition, I also feel like Gene Stealers are incredibly useful to use in Rapid Regeneration, especially in the fight phase. I would try and make it so that if you are running Gene Stealers, that your opponent is not able to activate into them unless they are for sure charging the Gene Stealers, because they get the wombo combo of -1 to hit from the Broodlord if staged correctly, as well as a 5-up feel no pain. So especially if your opponent is running 2 damage weapons, it almost feels like it turns into -1 damage with every single one of those hits with the 5-up feel no pain. Sometimes it could swing even hotter than that. So just a little tidbit on that. What you need to make sure that you're doing is planning ahead and making sure any of those units that are going to be needing that 5-up feel no pain are, of course, going to be in Synapse. It's really easy to do with the Gene Stealers, just like I mentioned, and the Maleceptor, because they will always be in Synapse, of course, as long as the Broodlord is attached to that. However, if you're planning on using it on like a Tyrannofex or like an Exocrine, make sure that you either have a Neurotyrant with Neuraloids attached to it, or you have a unit that's babysitting it a little bit, like a Hive Tyrant. Don't get caught in your opponent's phase with not being able to activate that stratagem on a 5-up. In my opinion, it's not really worth it to be on a 6-up feel no pain. I would often try to use my CP otherwise. Honestly, maybe even re-rolling a save is better than a 6-up Feel No Pain. In addition, this is definitely one of the stratagems that you want to be activating with your Hive Tyrant's discounted CP stratagem on each your turn as well as your opponent's. It's very good value, and your Hive Tyrant's going to be able to give you that value every single time as long as it's live. Then, last but certainly not least, once you make a plan of what unit you're going to use the 5-up Feel No Pain on, make sure you stick to that plan, because oftentimes in gameplay we can be swayed by different activations that maybe the game is shifting a little bit in the way that you don't realize. I promise you, if you've already planned out your 5-up Feel No Pain, your instincts are correct. Save your Maleceptor, save your Gene Stealers, save whatever, but just make sure you're activated at the right time. 5th tip: subscribe to the channel. Haha, isn't that so funny? But honestly, we're doing some really good Tyranid content. We do battle reports every single week. Almost every single week it's Tyranids. About 3 out of 4 weeks each month, it's going to be a Tyranid battle report, basically. So if you like Tyranids, if you like watching Tyranid battle reports, this is honestly the channel for you, and you should take a look at it. Every single week, we do those battle reports that I just mentioned. We're going to have army list review shows almost every single week. I'm missing a couple this month. Sorry about that. But those are going to be at Monday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. In addition, we are going to have weekly Tyranid tactics videos, just like the one you are listening to right now. And last but certainly not least, we're making a big push for 10,000 subscribers. Ambitious? Yes, I think so. But a big goal that we're going to have once we reach 10,000 subscribers, we will be doing a 10-hour live stream where I do a bunch of Tyranid stuff for the entire time. So if that's something you're interested in seeing, hit the subscribe button. Have a lovely rest of your day. 5th and final tip is all about selecting your adaptation at the beginning of the game. Of course, this is the choice that you make between lethals for monsters and vehicles, precisioning a character, or sustained hits versus infantries and swarms. And I honestly think that that's the adaptation that you're probably going to pick most of the time. And that's very simply because we have a Hive Tyrant that's going to give us lethal hits anytime we are within 6 inches of that. So if you're able to position your units in a way where they're just hanging out with your Hive Tyrant most of the game, then you're gonna have that lethal effect as long as you're shooting, of course. Now, if you're going into like demons with a really big, heavy monster skew or any kind of knights list, then yeah, of course, you're gonna go on lethal so that your units can kind of activate on their own. They don't have to be surrounded by the Hive Tyrant at all times. However, I do feel like going up against an all-comers list, the sustained is probably going to help you quite a bit. In addition, something to note is predatory imperative is very, very good. Some people think it switches the adaptation that you have active for your army. It actually just adds an additional adaptation to that unit or those 2 units that you're able to put it in as long as they're within synapse. So this allows for a very, very powerful combo that you can use with precision. What you can do is, if you have a unit that you know is going to go into a character unit that has a bunch of infantry and a character attached to that unit, go ahead, use predatory imperative. It's going to give that unit precision and sustain. So not only are you going to be getting a whole bunch of more attacks into that infantry unit, each one of those 6 is also going to go potentially straight into that character model as well. If you do Adrenal Surge with it, oh my gosh, you can mince pretty much any infantry unit out there and yoink some really important characters for your opponent. All right, everybody, that is it for this week's Tyranid Tactics video. Please let me know what you think about kind of these shorter, little bite-sized tips for specific detachments. I have 3 more videos planned that are in the works, but let me know in the comments below what you think about this format and what detachment you want to be seen covered next. Of course, if you want a deep dive in Invasion Fleet itself, go ahead and check out our video on our channel, our Invasion Fleet detachment focus, and I'm sure you'll see a lot about that detachment. Anyways, that's it for today. Have a great rest of your week, and I will see you Wednesday. Bye.